So, you think you're ready for the forbidden lore, the dark secrets, the wicked occult knowledge concealed from most mortal eyes. You want to see behind my DM screen. Okay, I get a lot of questions about what's in my Dungeon Master's kit, the essentials that I use to run games. Maybe you're a new DM trying to figure out what tools will work best for you, or maybe you're an experienced DM who just wants to compare notes. Either way, today's the day I take you behind the screen and show you what's really back here. Come on. Just kidding, I only need like half this many dice. Okay, that's more like it. This is what it looks like back here when I'm actually prepared. So not every time, but most times. First things first, I gotta shout out the DM screen itself. This is a custom screen gifted to me by the talented folks at Laserhawks. It has an optional dice tower that can be built into it, and I can actually flip this switch to roll towards my players instead of towards me. Just in case I want everybody to get a good look at my terrifyingly powerful big bad missing 4 attacks in a row. I'll put a link in the description in case you want your own. The panels are magnetic, so you can stick stuff to the back. And yes, this magnet is a tiny penis. A Jester cosplayer gave it to me at a live show. But to be honest, I am not big into putting stuff on the back of the screen. Usually the kinds of things that I want printed out, I need to be able to write on, and I would rather just write on a flat surface. My main use for the screen is just as a barrier to separate me from the players. For my own safety, really. I would say half the time the backside is completely blank. Except for my affirmations, of course. Now, I do have a laptop back here, which we'll get to in a second, but the longer I DM, the more I find myself drawn to pen and paper. I don't know, maybe I'm just taking on my final form of old Dungeon Master yells at Cloud, but I have not found an online tool for tracking monster hit points that's easier than just writing it down. And even though we live in a sci-fi future world with 3D printers and electric cars and dystopian late-stage capitalism, our technology for jotting down notes on PDFs feels like it has not progressed in decades. The first section is just a printed copy of whatever adventure I'm running. In this case, it's my own adventure, a one-shot set at a Renaissance festival, because I just didn't think D&D was quite nerdy enough. The next section is for stat blocks, both villains and friendly NPCs. I like to have one stat block per page, and this is usually where I scrawl my hit point notes. I promise I can read this. If I have a spellcaster here, I like to include spell cards right after their stat block for easy reference. And this last section is just scratch paper. Real talk, I am not always this prepared. This is pretty typical for me when it comes to a one-shot or a short arc, but when we're talking full campaign, I'm more likely to just have a notebook for scratch paper and maybe some printed off stat blocks. I really want to be the kind of person that has a neatly organized, super detailed campaign notebook, sort of like I want to be the kind of person who always has her nails done, but here we are. I know all of that made me sound like I'm resistant to technology, but I promise I'm not. In fact, I recently roped my dad into helping me build a fancy digital map display, and I will show it off right after today's sponsor.
Slug, what is this box on my desk? It says today's sponsor. It's Send in the Goblins, boss. A new D&D compatible module on Kickstarter. Interesting. You play as one of 5 goblin bosses trying to reclaim your lair from the bugbear who stole it. Each goblin boss has an endless supply of disposable goblins and their own unique abilities. The frog launcher, the barrel brawler, the orb mancer. There's even a gardener with a carnivorous plant designed with Ginny D. Who's that? She's down the hall in the dice department. Slug! This is perfect. It sure is. Wait, perfect for what? For training! Players have to fight monsters, solve puzzles, and decide if they're gonna work together or backstab their fellow goblin bosses to get ahead. All essential leadership skills. How do we get it? I'll make the Kickstarter pledge right now, boss. Make sure to pick the physical rewards over the digital. I want the print book with the stat blocks and maps, and I want to pick the perfect minis. You got it, boss. Say, do you think I could do this training program? Don't be stupid, Slug. Training is for goblins with management potential. I'm talking minion demoralization, time mismanagement. I'm talking strong conflict incitement skills. You lost me, boss. I'm gonna go clog the toilets with raw meat again. Finally, some initiative.
Behold, a laptop. Even when I have stuff printed off, I still have my laptop behind my DM screen at all times. That way I can easily double check stuff like spells and conditions, pull up PDFs or digital notes, and quickly Google how much blood is in a horse. I don't generally keep books behind the screen because I have most of that content digitally and they just take up a ton of space. Another reason I need my laptop is for maps. A few months ago, I stumbled on this great video from How to Roll Dice about using a cheap TV screen to make a digital play surface. I immediately texted it to my dad, who responded exactly as I expected. So we spent a Sunday afternoon building a little wooden box and then setting a $20 TV from Facebook Marketplace inside it with an older model Chromecast attached to it. And now I can cast any still image or video from my laptop to the TV, such as a combat map or some ambiance or important campaign-related information. The only other technology I regularly use is a Bluetooth speaker for music. I usually just go on Spotify and search for stuff like D&D Combat or D&D Tavern or, when necessary, the Benny Hill theme, which is often necessary. Now, even though the maps are digital, I still use real miniatures, so depending on what combats I have planned for the session, I'll usually have some minis picked out behind the screen. One thing I've learned since starting collecting minis is that no matter how much it feels like you have way too many, you somehow never have the exact thing you need. And on the rare occasions when you do have what you need, it definitely isn't painted, which means that most times I'm describing a terrifying monster and then putting down a Funko Pop or an unpainted walrus wearing armor. When I don't want to ask my players to pretend that a hairless cat wearing a wizard hat is a threatening archmage, I keep these flatback rhinestones on hand. They're the perfect size to represent a medium creature, they're easy to differentiate so you can tell minions apart, and they're also really helpful for indicating where a summoned creature or a spiritual weapon is. Look how cute this little cat wizard is though. Okay, I think it's probably time to address the elephant in the room. For someone who claims to love dice so much, why do I only have 2 sets back here? Am I a dirty liar, faking my dice obsession to make myself more relatable to D&D audiences online? Did the Ginny D scandal just get worse? In short, no. I assure you I am just as sick in the head as I appear. But there's really limited space behind the screen, and I also want to make sure that I'm not fishing through like 30 dice trying to find a single D12, so I usually just keep 2 full sets and a handful of extra D20s. If I have a monster or a villain that requires a lot of a specific die, like D6s for Fireball, I might go grab a few extras from my dice drawer, which is just like 6 feet that way. But in general, I try to practice restraint. And for the same reason, I use a rolling tray that has a really small footprint because there just isn't enough room back here for something extravagant. So that's it. That's everything I usually have on hand when I run a game. Oh, and my sword, in case anyone tries to argue about my rulings. Of course, there's a whole spectrum of how prepared I am and how significant the session is, and that has a huge effect on what's behind the screen. Sometimes I basically just have my laptop, scratch paper, and dice, but other times I might even have printed handouts or props. The more I was trying to procrastinate on something else, the more likely that I will have handwritten a letter on parchment or something. I gotta say, when I first started DMing, I leaned really hard into stuff. I was all about finding the coolest initiative trees and hit point trackers and combat notepads and all that. But the longer I run games, the less stuff I want to have back here in general. I've tried a lot of different things, but ultimately it felt like for me personally, much of it was more distracting than helpful. How about you? What's behind your DM screen? Let me know in the comments what you can't run games without. Also, if you want to know where I got any of the things in this video, I will link them in the description. None of them sponsored this video, and I don't make commission on any of this, but I will note down which ones gave me the product for free. Okay, bye.